What's up, guys? I'm Matt Adams, aka the Mattsta, here for Exam.com. Last week I got to go to the ArenaNet Studios to check out the Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns demo that they will be showing at PAX East this weekend, and again the following weekend over at EGX Rezzed in London. Here you can see me going through the character creation progress, creating a Revenant, which is in the demo, but for the purposes of this video we're really just going to be focusing on the personal story here at the beginning of the demo. For more impressions about the Revenant and everything else I was in the demo, make sure you head over to Exam.com to read the full article. While you're over at Exam.com, make sure you check out our interview that we had with John Peters and John Corpening, where we talked everything about the demo, including the new PvP game mode Stronghold. When we finish up here and we actually get in to start the story, it starts off with this cutscene. For players that have been paying attention to Guild Wars 2, this cutscene will actually look really familiar, as this is a cutscene that was at the end of The Living World Season 2. For those of you who have not been paying attention to Guild Wars 2, what has happened is that the pack, the combined armies of all the races of Tyria, have gone into the jungle to try to defeat Mordrum, and this is the outcome that they face.
Proved even more powerful than we imagined. The jungle itself set against us. Many are dead. Still others are missing. And our fleet is utterly broken. Please, we need your help.
So much wreckage.
Is it possible that Mordremoth took down the entire fleet?
The evidence is all around us. I doubt we'll find many survivors either.
Hey, my mother was on one of those ships.
I didn't plan this attack or put your mother at the front of it.
Come on!
Bram, get back here!
So as we saw in that cinematic, the pack fleet goes out into the jungle and they try to fight Mordremoth, and Mordremoth just completely decimates the entire fleet. Arena has actually said that across all of the maps here in the expansion, we're going to be finding the remains of the entire pack fleet strewn out across the top of the jungle. So as we see here, we're going into this first zone and we're seeing this first pack fleet airship.
I'm Graham Erson, heirs to Gulkin's son. I want to know where she is.
Bram, you can't just run off like that. We're in enemy territory.
You are a welcome sight, Commander. The situation here is grim. Mordremoth tore the fleet apart. The Pact is in ruins. Lack of leadership is the issue. Traherne and Destiny's Edge were taken prisoner. And my soldiers no longer trust me.
And you're surprised? Scarlet, Aaron, and now this. Mordremoth always does the most damage when Sylvari are involved.
We need to strengthen the defenses around here. Our priority has to be salvaging weapon parts from the crash sites.
What about our comrades in the cavern? The Pact does not abandon its own.
Look around, sir. There is no more pact, and the prisoners you want to save are probably already dead.
Think it through, soldier. We need greater numbers, or any salvage party we send will disappear like the others.
This isn't helping. Just tell us where Destiny's Edge is, please.
Larenthir, stand by. I need to think this through.
Destiny's Edge were taken prisoner too. Rescuing Larenthir's soldiers might help us pick up the trail.
This is something that's interesting in the way that they're taking the personal story here in Heart of Thorns, and something that I also talked about quite a bit about with John Peters in my interview that you can check out over on Zam.com. And that's this decision making. And the personal story in the original Guild Wars 2 release, there's decisions, but they always came at the end of a story step. So you would choose a decision, and then that would affect what the next personal story instance that you'd go into was. Whereas here we're seeing you choose a decision very early on, and then you very immediately are acting on whatever decision you choose.
Everyone listen up. We've suffered a serious setback, but we're far from beaten. Larenthir is still your commanding officer. I've debriefed him, and he has my full confidence. Clear?
Yes, Commander.
Larenthir will join my extraction team. Everyone else, dig in and fortify this position. Now fall in and let's get to work.
And as John Peters had said in the interview, one of the really great things about having the decision early on is just this immediacy where you pick the thing and are
These
immediately going
bloodstains say
and
someone
following
was
up on it.
dragged through here. Can't tell if they were alive or dead though.
Another thing that's really nice is, as I mentioned in the original Guild Wars 1 story, is their choice affected what the next personal story instance was. So while you were getting to choose what you're doing, it also meant that you were choosing not to do some of these instances, as you would select one and not go into the other. Whereas here, John Peters had said, while you are making a choice, the plot is always going to be the same no matter what you choose. So he had said that it's like someone telling a story, and if you have two people telling that, they're going to get a different perspective depending on who tells you it, but they're still going to get that same story. They're still going to get the same plot here in Heart of Thorns. It's just they're going to see like different versions of it.
Hear me. We're up here.
Commander, did you hear that? It came from above us, at the top of those stairs. The enemy keeps collecting corpses and prisoners. This is the first time we've had any sign of where they wind up.
So something that you might have noticed when we were making that selection is that there's only one selection available here in the demo that they're going to be showing out at PAX East and Res. The other one was blocked off. And when I talked to John Peters, he said, hey, there's only one. But he also said that this isn't the entirety of the story step. As we saw when we first came into the instance, we come in and we're with our full party. We have Canuck with us, which is not a character that was part of our team during the Season 2 Living World that lead up to this expansion story. So I imagine there's probably going to be some story leading up, maybe instance that takes place before we actually get into the new maps. And then there's also probably going to be some follow-up after we finish this personal story that we just don't see because this is a demo. Here, this is just kind of like the trash mobs, I guess you could say, of the this personal story. But these are really cool things. This is the first time that we have encountered these monsters, at least here in this demo. Again, I don't know if there's going to be something before this instance when we get into the full release of Heart of Thorns. But it was a really cool introduction to see these. And as you can see, there's some really cool skills that they're using. The previous group of enemies, they had these lines that persisted while you're there. And as you can see here, there's these AoEs that they're throwing out on the ground. And they start out as these small AoEs, and then they just start slowly spreading. And as you can see there, I walked into one to see what it does. And it does damage, but it's also like crippling you as you go into there. And as you look and you see, like, it's not just an AoE, like there's an actual effect there. It like makes the ground look like it's dying and being withered away. Something that I didn't mention that happened earlier is their player character actually speaks here in Heart of Thorns. This is something that we haven't really seen in Guild Wars 2 before. Previously, whenever their character spoke, it was always in a dialogue where it fills up the entire screen, and there's two characters on the screen, their character and another character, and you speak then. And the only other time you saw them speak is when they're out in the world and they use a skill. So like if I use retreat and it goes retreat, those are the only times you saw them speak. You never got them that really speak when they're here in these stories, when they're actually doing the missions.
Welcome, Father. Mortimer has plans for you all.
And here, this is like the end boss of this story instance. It's a little difficult of a boss. It's not too difficult. This is a personal story mission, but here we can start to see a lot of things that they're doing here in Heart of Thorns. We just saw him try to use a big skill, and this is the very first case that we saw the new Defiance bar in action. When he uses his skill again, you can see under his health bar, a new bar shows up. Here it is, a blue bar. And if you look very quickly there, you actually saw it go in half and then go in half again. This Defiance bar is whenever they go and they use like one of their special skills or one of their big powerful moves, this bar pops up, and what that does is allow you a chance to interrupt that skill. Normally here in Guild Wars 2, when you ever use a CC, it works instantaneously. It doesn't matter if they're using a skill or anything. And sometimes that meant you're kind of wasting skills on these big bosses, as they would become immune by gaining Defiance stacks. And you would have ended up stunning them when they weren't doing anything, they were just staying around. So it was really cool to see this change where now the only time CC is really going to affect them is when it really matters that it affects them, and it interrupts that big skill that's going to do a lot of damage or it's going to do some kind of special effect. Later in the demo, we actually fight the Wyvern, and the only time it gains its Defiance bar, is when it's about to take off. And that's a really big deal that you be able to interrupt that, because once it takes off, it starts flying around and it starts laying down all these fire fields on this platform. And as the platform fills up, it becomes harder to survive, as these fire fields will persist for a very long time, and they do tend to do a lot of damage and can kill you if they're not careful. As we finish up this personal story, I just wanted to mention back at the player character being able to talk, I had a chance to talk with Bobby Stein momentarily in the hallway, and he said that this was something that they really wanted to get in so that it really gives that epic feeling to this. He had mentioned that they are actually trying to get this ready for the Living World Season 2, but they weren't able to quite make it in time. So now we're seeing it here in Heart of Thorns, and it's something that's going to be throughout the story.
Corpses from the crash site. They took the others south to join the Jungle Dragon's army. We would have been next, but we didn't break. And now we're going to give Mordremoth's horde a taste of what it gave us.
And this is the last big part of what I talked with John Peters about, is these helicopters. It makes it sound like that other step, that other decision for this step would have been you actually going and helping these helicopters up and running. So while the story does play out differently, you're still going to be getting that same plot, and they're going to end up in this place where the helicopters come, they drop you off here in the open world. That's something that John Peters said, that they're really tying the open world and the personal story steps together, and it's not going to be two completely different stories like it was in the original Guild Wars 2 launch. That wraps up this video. Make sure you check out jam.com for the rest of my impressions, as well as the interview that we posted earlier this week. Thanks for watching.